if you could have a conversation with an insurance agent who successfully sold to a massively backed VC company, what would you ask? My name's Tyler. Today I got the chance to sit down with a really close friend of mine, Ben Rader. He has built and sold an agency. He's grown massive companies in the life insurance space. He's been around the block and sold a whole lot of insurance. And today we got to have a conversation with Ben for Agency Shop Talks. My name's Tyler. I'm one of the hosts and admins inside our Facebook group. We'd love to have you come be a part and have conversations with other agents in the group. Pretty regularly, we interview agents and thought leaders inside the industry to get their opinions and advice on what they think agents should be doing. And so Ben, like I said, has a ton of experience on the life side, helps agents now, specifically on the PNC side and financial advisors and RIAs, to add in life products to better help serve their clients. And so Ben had a lot of great stuff to add, a lot of really great advice, and some pretty interesting thoughts about the new role that AI is going to play in insurance. So I hope you enjoy this conversation and this interview. Hope to see you in the next video, and check out the Facebook group. I'll see you inside. Okay, yeah. So we were having a good conversation before we hit record. Do you want to tell a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then we can kind of go into some of what you were talking about, the highest leverage
Yeah,
thing agents can work on now?
yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, so my name's Ben Rader, principal owner of Resurgence Insurance Marketing. 13 and a half years in the independent life distribution space. We do not do anything outside of life, disability, annuities, and some long-term care, a little bit of ancillary health products, but no ACA, no Medicare. We stay very much in our lane. We've dipped our toe into those other waters, and I find that it's much better to be very knowledgeable and build a really tall tower on a very strong foundation in one lane. There are lots of people out there that fight me on that and say, be the Swiss Army knife. But it's worked really well for us, in over the 13-year mark to be able to provide really high level support, training, carrier and product access, and all that kind of stuff to our agents and agencies. We work with independent agents. We work with PNC agencies, advisory firms, RIAs to help them bring life insurance into their ecosystem. Either they haven't done it at all or they've only done it when clients have asked. And there's obviously a huge benefit to not only providing those types of protection products to your clients, but also from a retention standpoint. And I tell, especially financial advisors, right? They want AUM. They want AUM. I was like, look,
Yeah.
uh, you put a $2 million term policy on Mr. Smith. When Mr. Smith dies and Mrs. Smith gets that $2 million check, where do you think she's going to
Where's
go?
it going? Yeah.
Simple stuff like that. And it's like, I know that you want that extra $200 a month in the AUM account, but if we sell in life insurance, that benefit is going to pay out. And when it does, she's coming to you. So simple stuff like that. Looking a little bit more long term for some of our partners on that side of the business. Um, but what we were just talking about there's so many ways to cultivate prospects and client relationships. I think AI is it's obviously a buzzword, Tyler, right? You're
Yeah.
heavily embedded in it, have been for a long time. We've been hearing about AI for years. I think there's a lot of sort of confusion for your average agent in terms of how they can use that in their agency. I mean, you see the sort of jokes about, oh yeah, your average person, they're just using Chat GPT like a Google search, like,
Right.
hey, how do I make scrambled eggs? That kind of thing. Um, whether it be something as simple as asking Chat GPT to create a formula for Excel or asking Claude to create some code for a project you're doing. Those standalone AI models are great and you can use them in your business, but I think your average agent, they're not leveraging them. Where I feel like they can really leverage the power of AI is in the stuff that you're doing in the AI clones, in being able to put yourself out there in video format when it's not you, and nobody knows that it's not you. Those types of investments upfront investment to get that type of thing off the ground, but being able to have a fairly functional and fluent AI receptionist, not just a recording where you're punching 1 through 5. Someone that can actually, where it integrates with your calendar and email and stuff on the back end and integrates with your CRM. That's stuff that an average single agent, when let's face it, majority of insurance agents, they're probably one person shops. Maybe there are a couple floating around there, but
Right.
especially on the life side, a lot of solo agents out there. And I think that these types of tools are massively underutilized. Um, and for what the cost is to get a lot of these things off the ground, the ROI is massive. But again, kind of going back to what we were talking about in the green room, is so many agents, they just take this transactional approach. Like, yeah, I'll get to that stuff later. I just got to write one more policy. I just got to hit my quota for this month. I just need to do whatever it may be. And then I'll create an AI clone, and then I'll find out how an AI receptionist can integrate into my platform. There's no time like the present, right?
Well,
And
let's say one of these agents goes and wants to set up an AI clone. A lot of people probably don't even know what should they have it do. What's your tactical advice? Let's say you go set up a clone. I know we talked a little bit about it beforehand, but what would you have these agents go focus on doing?
so it's a great question, and unequivocally, I think education, huge gap on the consumer side in terms of education. Whether you're talking about a monoline auto on a used Civic, or on the PNC side, or if you're talking about a $50 million key person buy sell for a multinational corporation that involves 3 different carriers and reinsurance, whatever it is, educating your client, educating the consumer is the most important thing that you can do to build business organically, to build upfront trust with your prospects. And like, here's the craziest thing. Let's say, Tyler, you have an AI clone that's going out there and, promoting home auto bundles in a certain market that you want to work in. And, you've fed the script to the clone. They don't know that it's not you. It looks great. And they call, and let's say you're on the phone with them, and you pick up or you respond to their request for information. It's immediate trust building. The fact that they saw you on, let's say it's their social media feed, or however it is that and then you are the one calling them. And it seems like, you're immediately elevated in terms of how you're looking in that prospect's eyes, because you are the one that they responded to, and they're not getting called back by just a random person here and there. Now, look, obviously you have lots of leads. There are lots of caveats to that. In some organizations, you're just getting too many leads. You're not calling back every single one. And sometimes, you might have those leads flow into a situation where an AI receptionist is calling them back right away and trying to either transfer it over to you or book a time on your calendar. And that's fine. But the fact that, you are building this sense of like trust, and you're connecting with the person, it is so much better, because I know I've cut, 1,000 hours of videos. Cut videos they're great. I think it's the one of the best ways to get attention and educate people. But in general, how time intensive it is
Takes
to
a
cut
lot.
video, edit it, then get it. I mean, it's just like, oh, you need a whole day set aside for that. What if your hair's not right? The AI's hair is always right. So, that type of stuff creates really powerful impact and that's if it were me. If I were one person, I would be like, how do I get that going and start generating, inbound leads for my business that way? Is it as smash and grab as putting in a lead order or going on, any of the vendors or
Right.
buying a list? No, but that's the key. It's a little bit slower, a little bit more work up front, like you said. The payoff is exponentially bigger.
100%. One of my mentors always told me, he said, look, we're all going to do the same amount of work in life. It's just some people are going to front load it he's like, that's the boat you want to be in. And so I do think there's a lot of truth there. You put in extra work up front and it will continue to pay you over time, and it makes your life easier long term. All right. So a lot of the people inside our group are going to be more on the PNC side.
Yep.
Tell me about, I know kind of what you're doing now is partnering with a lot of PNC agents to help them go after the life side. A lot of these guys, they may have sold, like, if they came from the captive world, they've sold some life, but a lot of them not a whole lot. Tell me about what you typically see with agents and maybe what some of the top misconceptions or things they mess up there.
Yeah, that's a great point. Top misconception, especially if PNC agents are coming from the captive side, is the time that it takes and the complications necessary to submit and issue a life case. A lot of products out there that are, instant issue up to 1 million, 2 million with preferred best rating, and, fluidless exams down to four, fluidless underwriting down to four tables, stuff like that. So there's this sort of captive hangover that we have to deal with for a lot of agents, or maybe they're not captive, but maybe they work for a large old school BGA life aggregator. I'm not going to start naming names, but if you did, you probably know you did. Well, you didn't have access to some of the streamlined automated products that can integrate seamlessly, not only with your presentation on the PNC side, but full API docs, where you can actually integrate life quoting and decisioning into your tech stack if that's sort of the direction your agency is going, or where your agency is. So there's truly no excuse. I think a lot of times folks will stop, hey, we got the home, we got the auto, we got the umbrella, we got the toys. That's good. And the old, one of the best books that I read early on in my career is Go for No. And the truth is, you're not done until you get a no. Most agents stop at the yes. And that's a huge problem because you don't know how many yeses are past that first yes or that second yes you got. And the mentality is, well, I don't want to, push too much. I don't want to jeopardize the main sale. You're not gonna. You're not gonna. It's like when you go and you order something, do you want to add a crust to your New York strip? No, I'm good. Do you want any béarnaise sauce on the side? No, actually, you know what? That would be good. I'll take a sauce on the side. Yeah, but no crust. Those are all add-ons.
Yeah.
You're not gonna say, you know what? Forget it. I don't even want the steak. You're trying to upsell me, and I don't even want the steak to begin. Of course, you want the steak. You're not going to jeopardize the initial sale. But if you don't ask about life, if you don't ask about disability, if you don't ask about long-term care, somebody else will. What if that person's got a more competitive PNC product? Now you're not only risking cash flow, you're risking retention. So on the PNC side, that's the biggest thing. My number one, like top level training tip for PNC is you make it part of the presentation. Here's the deal. The number one, well, I don't know underwriting. I don't know how healthy they are, what they might take. I'm like, all right, well, here's the deal. I don't. Like Tyler, I don't know what you take. I don't know what crazy things might be going on, but I'm here. I'm looking at you. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to quote him preferred. Okay. I don't see an oxygen tank. He's not 450 pounds. I don't know if there might be some medications there that might knock it down to standard. So we're always going to caveat it, but you can get a very good rough estimate of someone's insurability on the life side by your conversation and what you know about them. And not to be, to pigeonhole too much, you have a lot of, their age, what kind of house they have, what kind of cars they drive. In general, someone's got a $1.5 million house and a Range Rover and a Bentley, this and that. Look, could they have one foot in the grave? Absolutely. Will they? Probably not. People that take care of their wealth tend to take care of their health as well. So, you can kind of make some of these ballpark guesses. And I put something out, 250,000, 20 years. Tyler, it's going to be $38 a month. Most of my clients are taking advantage of that protection package just to wrap it all up. Any reason you wouldn't want to move forward with that application today. And a lot of times they say, well, how much is 500,000? Or what is 250 the only option? you've started the conversation. It's just all it is. 250K on a 20-year term. I don't care. Quote them standard. Who cares? Um,
That does feel
maybe
so
it works. Maybe it doesn't.
non-assuming. Feels like
Exactly.
such a no big deal.
Yep. Yep.
That's cool.
So that's the best way for PNC agents to incorporate those sales into their practice without any additional hurdles, static pushback. And guess what? You write 400, 500 cases a year, you'll sell 100 life policies by accident. And right now you're selling five only when someone comes in asking for it.
Right. And that makes a massive difference to the bottom line
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
life pays a whole lot faster than PNC.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, if you figure if you're taking advance, obviously lots of different things out there, but on the traditional market side, if someone's paying $100 a month, you're going to get $1,000 on the advance for that product, right? Do that 100 times a year, put $100,000 with no additional marketing, no additional ad spend, nothing. I mean, it's literally for the same clients that you have right now. And they have it at work, they have this, they have that. We're not going to, do like an in-depth training, but there's so many ways around that. And it's so important that everyone owns and controls their own policy. Very easy. You have the clients right there. They're already buying insurance. They're protection minded. You've got a relationship with them, whether they're new clients, whether you're doing it on renewal, and you can always joke, hey, you never have to worry about getting non-renewed for your life insurance. Never have to worry about the rate going up, right? So
Yep.
that's the one thing I can guarantee you. As for, your home, your flood, your umbrella, oh, I don't know about that. But the life, set it and forget it.
That's cool. All right, changing gears a little bit. I didn't warn you about this. You
Nice.
have been around the block on the life side. What's some crazy stories? Because especially the final expense side,
Yep.
it got wild. Tell me
Yep.
about some of your craziest, funnest stories.
So I think the best thing in insurance, in general, everyone, they know they need it, but they try hard to not get it. So I think one of the funnest personal stories I have is, I had a guy and he needed final expense coverage. He knew his kids were going to be screwed without it. And he decided he wasn't going to do it. He walked me out front and he showed me three oak trees in his front yard. Said that those trees are worth $10,000 in lumber. And that was actually what he was going to do for final expense.
Wow.
And you can't reason with like what are you going to do? I could still be there 11 years later trying to beat something out of him. But you get people that know they need it, but will find any reason not to do it. And I think that's something in insurance where you're dealing with insurance that's not mandatory. Like you need to have for all, for most in most scenarios, right? You got to have auto, you got to have home. Like mortgage clause requires it.
Yep.
States require it, almost all of them for your car. Stuff like that. So on the life side, it's like you know, I don't know. Kids will figure it out. I took care of them long enough. They'll figure it out. In trying to get past that, over that hurdle. I think on the final expense side, I've personally written thousands of policies, door to door in 30 different states. And I think the biggest thing is everybody thinks that you don't even know where I'm. No, not my people wouldn't. You don't even know what my people are like. No, they're all the same. I promise. Like whether I'm in Arizona, Washington State, Maine, I'm in Connecticut, Florida, Oklahoma, they're all the same. It's the same slice of society that is 72 years old with COPD and diabetes. That's like, you know what? I might want to start thinking about looking at something to maybe one day protect my family. Um, that is the biggest thing that you need to kind of navigate. I would say, I've the worst thing. I mean, a lot of great people. I had one client who was making wine in his garage. Now, Tyler, I know you're not, a drinker. I do like wine. We were talking about wine. I have a large cellar, and he's like, "You have got to come and take my wine." So now I didn't throw up on the floor of his garage. But if I said to you, if I handed you a glass of red wine vinegar and I was like, Tyler, you drink that, you enjoy it. Try to do that and keep a straight face and tell me that you are enjoying it. It is a very challenging thing to do. And he gave me 2 bottles to bring home too. So kind, like so nice.
Yep.
But I don't need your homemade garage wine. Just wasn't the move. But you know what? Like those are the people. When you go out and see the people, and obviously a lot of folks were selling virtually now. You don't get to experience the garage wine when you're selling,
Hmm.
over the phone.
That's funny. I had a guy give me a Nick Chubb jersey one time. He was a big NFL fan, and we got talking football, and I told him I was a diehard Georgia fan. He was like, "Hey, I got this jersey that I don't want. I don't like Cleveland anymore, and he's playing there. Somebody gave me a Georgia jersey. Do you want it?" And I like wouldn't take it, and he was like, "Well, I'm not getting the policy unless you take it." So he gave
Yeah,
me
well,
a
you know what?
jersey, but
Sometimes yeah, exactly.
I
Um,
it's so
yep,
funny. The final expense crowd, they do crack me up. They're sweet as they can be.
yep.
But it was actually the very first policy I ever wrote with you. I don't know if you remember this. I had to go back like 3 times to this lady's house. And dude, like I was fighting back gagging because she had like 15 little dogs in the
Oh
corner. They
yeah.
had peed all over the house.
Yep.
Like it was rough.
Smells
But
like money though. That's right, and that's
yeah,
the
I
cool
did
thing
learn
is
that
like
lesson.
nobody else is going to go there. Nobody else is going to take care of them. And that's you do get that sense of satisfaction, especially in the final expense marketplace. You're like, look, if I don't do it, nobody else is. And look, I'll sell $2 million term policies and IUL all day. But there is obviously, I know I came up in the final expense world and definitely holds a special place in my heart because I've seen a lot of death claims pay out, millions and millions and millions of dollars of insurance pay out since I started that I've personally written. And it's like, you know what? That family wouldn't, I mean, I'd say honestly, one of the most amazing things was this past summer, I had a daughter of an insured call me, and they had an AIG policy. It was a guaranteed issue policy, so they only did guaranteed issue. I looked it up; it was still active, which you always like, ooh,
Right.
when they call you and you're like, "Hey, I found the policy in your card. My mom died this weekend." And I'm like, "It's still active." She's like, "And how much was it?" And I was like, "It's $5,000." Now look, 5,000 you might have it in your desk drawer right here. For this lady to hear her on the other side of the phone, she literally almost started crying. It meant so much. That $5,000 meant everything to that family at that time. And sometimes transactionally, we lose sight of what, like 5 grand to whatever, 5 grand. Um, Look, you insure cars can be replaced, houses can be rebuilt, right? Snowmobiles can be repurchased, but lives, when they're gone, they're gone. And there's nothing worse than dealing with grief and financial hardship.
Right.
I can't change the grief, but we can definitely change the financial hardship. And such a small policy. This is the smallest policy. 5,000 was the lowest amount we could go with AIG. And to hear that relief in her voice, like sometimes you need that every now and then. Um, to be like, wait a minute, what we do, it does matter. It is real. Yeah, we're grinding, we're, doing everything we can. We're ripping leads up and being like, this idiot said, he's going to trade in his oak trees to, bury him. Like, that's ridiculous. But then you realize that at the end of the day, you can lead the horse to water, but it's up to them to drink. And they pay their bills for 7 or 8 years. They die, you're going to be there for them. The company's going to be there for them. So that's really powerful to remind yourself of on the life side when sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees on certain days.
That's cool. I love that. Tell me about like what's your role look like now? Because obviously you grew an agency, you were able to make an exit slash
Yep.
partnership. Tell me about
Yep.
what's day to day like now for Ben Raider.
Yeah. So, in Resurge insurance marketing, the new organization we started coming up on 2 years. Predominantly, the main goal is working with agents and agencies to get them on the more professional side. We're not out there recruiting I mean, obviously we have room for them and protocols in place and, pathways to success and all that stuff. But in general, aiming to work more with firms, PNC, advisory, RIAs, larger groups of life agents, and really getting them in a position where they can offer some turnkey products and really getting that sort of missing piece for a lot of their practices. Look, life agents love them. We'll take them all day if they're a good fit. Very upfront and transparent about what we are and what we're not. But I've seen basically everything there is to see in the past 13 plus years. So it's pretty quick whether or not a relationship is going to work long term. And most of my role is spent really in cultivating those relationships and making sure that we're installing the proper products, support, training, and systems for P&C agencies that may be lacking or underperforming on the life side, and providing them the support that they need and may not be able to get, or just may not be aware of the products. Like if you ask me I don't know about P&C products. I mean, I know what I have in my house and stuff like that. But so sort of the flip side is, just because you're in insurance, or, worked at State Farm for a little bit, doesn't necessarily mean that you've got all the tools, but for the life disability, LTC type stuff, but we can certainly very quickly get a lot of groups up to speed with that.
That's cool. So obviously on the PNC side, a lot of it's just coaching about opportunities and what they can do. On the life side, before we started recording, you were talking a little bit about some of the separator between the people that kind of are flash in the pan versus stay long term. What's some of the keys there? I'd love to just even record that piece. What do you think separates people that come in, make a big splash in life, and then get out versus people that are able to have sustained long-term success?
Yeah, longevity on the life side is, I think, for better or worse. Obviously, we all know that most life products pay a 9 month advance, whereas P&C products pay a 0 month advance. So you get into P&C, you start, and you're like, look, I'm kind of in it for the long haul, or at least a certain amount of years before I can exit or whatever it may be, because I'm not getting paid $1,000 every time I push submit. So that's definitely, I think, a mixed blessing on the life side, because you get folks that come in that are, just rip the top off, 30, $40,000 a month. Majority of them are long gone, because it's not a sustainable practice, not just from keeping up with that level of production, that level of activity, but now you can't service your clients. Even if you have a back office staff. And look, there's every exception to every rule. I know some very, very good long-term, high-volume producers that have systems in place, but they truly have systems. Like they've got a customer service person. They know that they are 3 days a week selling, 2 days a week servicing. Like they've got it very well organized so that they can manage their clients. They can do their current client outreach. They can do their annual reviews and their Benny checks. So I think that on the life side, it's also why I love partnering with firms that aren't life first, because they already have a really solid built-in base of clients that we can teach them how to reach out to or how to present to. But at the same time, they've got a good pace, a good cadence going for their practice. They're not buying 200 leads a week and trying to go Tasmanian devil on it. And look, I'm on the top of every leaderboard of my 3 or 4 letter MLM, and then 9 months later, they're selling cars again.
Yeah.
So the pacing yourself, as I said, Tyler, it's Instagram versus reality, right? Everyone's talk is cheap. Canva is 12 Pro is $12 a month. You can make whatever you want. Okay. You can put up whatever you want online. There's no way to verify it, but agents who don't know better will look at things, and it also takes away from groups that do have legitimate leaderboards. And like, wow, why? How is this company doing 3 times more? I'm like, because they're reporting submitted business, and they're submitting the same 10 clients, 3 times a month, and it's counting every time. That's how. Again, not saying there are some beasts out there. There are plenty of them, but in general, stuff that's put out there to recruit is put out there to recruit, not because it's necessarily fact-based. So don't get caught up in, what your neighbor's doing and, keeping up with the Joneses. If you are in a position to sell life insurance, add it to your practice, or if it's the only thing you're doing, there's nothing more important than your long-term sustainability, because that's where the longevity comes in. Your average person who buys life insurance once will buy it 6 times during the course of their life. My goal is to have them buy it from me, be as close to that 6 as possible. People layer term policies. They have they have kids, they get married, they buy houses, they need final expense, they have a little extra money, they're going to do an IUL. Hey, you know what? Disability is important. I'm self-employed contractor. What happens if I fall off a roof? Stuff like that. 6 times statistically during the course of their life. So while you're there, don't be so transactional, and make sure the one thing on the life side too, keep good records. Most life agents, terrible, terrible. I don't care if it's a Google sheet, something where you have the basics, where you can, control F and you can search, the month that you wrote them, the year that you wrote them. It doesn't have to be a fancy CRM, but that's the biggest takeaway too. And sort of tying back into, AI, or what are we using? If you have all your data in spreadsheet format, even if it's just CSV format, and you want to load that into ChatGPT and ask some questions to analyze your data, it's amazing what you can find. And say, hey, find all my clients that have, in life insurance with a random number, like, 160,000 or 12,000, right? That isn't like 101. And now we're going to make a presentation of them to round up. Hey, Tyler, you got 160,000. I know we did it at a time because of X, Y, and Z, but just, another 40,000 is just going to run you $19 a month, give you that even 200,000, for another 75 cents a day. Just want to make sure that makes sense to you to go ahead and put that through, assuming you haven't had any major changes in your health. Easy ways like that you can identify in your book for easy add-on sales, stuff like that. So just keep records, because they will make you money down the line.
That's cool. I love that. All right. Another thing that I don't know, we've discussed this in a while. I know I've asked you some advice just on parenting and life. Tell me about, a lot of people get into insurance for the ever elusive work-life balance. What's some of your thoughts there? How do you personally define success? What's that look like? Because it seems like outside looking in, and just from knowing you personally, I feel like you do a good job at that balance. Tell me about what some of that looks like for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's, if you haven't read Matthew Kelly Off Balance, that's a good one to look at. It sort of pokes a hole in the sort of work-life balance. I think sort of cliche to some extent, because for those of us that, I have two kids, 2 boys, 4.5 and almost 8. So I know lots of people have children, are trying to balance that. It is, I think, the most important thing that I've learned is kind of getting that off that work-life balance train of thought, because it's not like 1950 where we go in and we work our 9 to 5, and when we home. No, it's like that cell phone rings, right? Yeah. The phone rings, the email. I got the laptop on the dining room table. It's 8:30. The kids are asleep. It's hard not to open it up and see what happened. And it's like, hey, but that way, like, I don't have to worry about it in the morning. And no. So the most important thing that was taught to me a long time ago is to be present in whatever you're doing. Okay. So when I'm at work, I'm present. And sometimes the kids have to come by, sometimes my wife has to, drop them off, whatever it may be. And that's totally fine. But when I'm working, I'm working. And then the flip side goes like when I'm home and we're having dinner or I'm playing with the kids or whatever it is, the like, this is not, this is gone, right? Unless it's like, something crazy emergent, but respecting, setting those boundaries and knowing that like if it's time to mess around with the kids after dinner, before they go up to bed, that's what I'm doing. And I'm not also responding to emails because that creates a lot of burnout because now you're on this hamster wheel, like this 24-hour cycle of like, when do I get a break from work? And you think, hey, it's good, I'm accomplishing things. But in reality, you're not even setting boundaries for yourself, which is really, really important because if you don't respect your own time, nobody else is going to respect your time. So that's a huge problem. Like if you don't have the self-respect, don't expect respect from anybody else. Um, I'm a huge list maker, note taker. I have, I've had for years, I have a Remarkable, which I use nonstop. It's always with me. So when I'm able to write down and I try to accomplish my list every day, there's some things obviously that you can't get done every day. They're larger projects. But one, I run very heavily on a sense of accomplishment. So even if it's a small task, I put it on the list so I can cross it off. For me, that works really well in terms of feeling accomplished. Um, and also, it frees up my brain. I don't want to remember anything. So it's my calendar. And I've priced this to you in the past. Like I'm goofy about my calendar. Like if I'm going out to dinner with my wife, if I have my son's got an 11 a.m. basketball game on Sunday, everything's on the calendar. That way I get notifications. And guess what? Nobody can jump on my booking page and snag that time because I work with agents, I work with firms in Hawaii. That's a 5-hour time difference for me.
Wow.
And they know that. But like if 7 o'clock on Thursday is open, it's only 2 p.m. for them. And I have an agent in the Honolulu office, he books something. It's like, oh man, that's like, I'm eating dinner with the kids. So I block all my time out and I make lists for everything. It eliminates my burnout, maximizes my productivity when I'm working, and it keeps my mind clear to focus on what I'm doing right now.
That's really cool. I like that. Yeah, I think that's massive. Well, man, what's the best way if some of the agents want to reach out to you, if they want to learn more about life or they need to round out their book? How do they best reach out to you and get in touch?
Yeah, any way is good. You can slide into my DMs. Ben at resurgeinsurance.com is my email. And Tyler, you can feel free to, disseminate any of my
Okay.
contact info. That's totally fine. I'm happy. And here's the thing, I will tell you, I tell everyone, I've been doing this a long time. I am happy to talk with anybody. I will never throw a recruiting pitch on you. I will tell you what we offer, but I've found like I truly believe in a rising tide raises all boats. I am, you're never gonna hear anything from me other than honest opinions on whether it be a case. I have people all the time bring me cases. They don't have a single contract with me, and they're on my calendar. They're on my Calendly, or they'll put a risk assessment form in through the website, and I'm more than happy to help everyone because I know at some point it will
Yep.
they'll smarten up and start working with. No, I'm just kidding. Um,
Well, that's how we
that
met. We met
yeah, for
in like
sure.
Insurance Soup or one of those
Yep,
groups. And yeah, I was just asking advice about one of the online kind of brokerage forums,
yep,
and you helped me a ton, and it made a ton of sense to move my contracts over. And
yeah,
yeah, it was super valuable. I've learned a
yeah.
ton
So
from you.
I'm happy to help anyone anytime. It's found I like making those connections, and it's obviously really helped expand my career and my network. So I appreciate the opportunity to chat about condense my 13 and a half years down into a half hour or so. But happy to continue the conversation anytime.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Ben, we appreciate you. If anybody needs some help on the life side, reach out to him. He is a wealth of knowledge, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.